Commander Vixith's whiskers froze mid-twitch the instant the human walked through the nursery bay entrance. The cubs, all three of them, lifted off the ground. Not stumbled, not jumped, not attempted anything resembling normal biological movement. They simply rose, suspended in midair, their predator forms drifting upward like dandelion seeds in an updraft that didn't exist. Their small claws flexed futilely against nothing. Their eyes widened with that particular blend of confusion and delight that young creatures experience when discovering gravity has filed a formal complaint and quit. Gravity systems still reading nominal. The engineering station reported through Vixith's comm unit. The voice belonged to Jik Ren, the station's chief system monitor, a technician whose confidence had never wavered in 43 years of posting. It wavered now. "Commander, I'm seeing. That's not possible." The human, Donna, according to the exchange program roster, didn't seem to notice anything amiss. She wheeled a recycling cart into the bay with the kind of casual momentum that suggested she'd performed this task approximately 9,000 times before. Her species had that quality, Vixith mused. That remarkable ability to walk through impossibility and treat it like a standard work day. The cubs continued their ascent, their small bodies rotating lazily as they rose. The largest one, designation Cub 3, though the nursery staff had taken to calling him Burst because of his tendency to pounce everything with aggressive enthusiasm, giggled. The sound was pure confusion wrapped in delight, a vocalization that roughly translated to, "What dimension is this, and why is it wonderful?" "Is the containment field fluctuating?" Vixith demanded, already knowing the answer would be wrong. "Negative, Commander. All containment fields reading steady. The cubs are just floating inside a functioning gravitational system, in defiance of established physics." Donna reached down to collect a discarded food container from near the cub's play structure. She didn't look up. She didn't acknowledge the impossible aerial display occurring 3 meters above her head. She simply hummed something tuneless, some Earth melody that had no business existing in a station orbiting Velenex 9, and deposited the container into her cart. One of the smaller cubs, Cub 1, designation Whisper due to her unusually quiet vocalizations, drifted closer to the human. Her whiskers twitched with that hunting focus young predators developed instinctively. The cub's eyes tracked Donna's movements with intense interest, as though the human represented both threat and fascination simultaneously. "Should I lower the gravity compensators?" Jikaran's voice had shifted into that high-frequency register that indicated growing panic. In species that didn't produce sweat, alarm manifested through vocal pitch modification. "Don't touch anything," Vixith commanded. "Verify your readings. Triple-check the entire system." The second cub, Cub 2, called Tumble, had begun rotating in the artificial air, his small body somersaulting with increasing confidence. His claws extended and retracted in what could only be described as playful aggression, practicing hunting motions against an opponent made of nothing. In approximately 18 months, those same motions would be deployed against actual prey. Apparently, gravity itself counted as viable practice material. Donna's humming continued. She moved to the corner of the nursery bay where the nutrient dispensers stood. The cubs watched her. All 3 of them tracked her movement with predatory precision, their bodies now hovering at various altitudes. Burst at nearly 2 meters, Whisper slightly lower, Tumble somewhere in the middle, still rotating. "Commander, I've completed the triple verification," Jik Ren reported. "All systems show nominal function. Gravitational field, steady. Magnetic anchors, engaged. Artificial gravity generators, operating within standard parameters. There is literally nothing wrong with this station's physics. Except the cubs are floating," Vixith said flatly. "Yes, sir. Except that." Donna crouched beside one of the recycling containers, reaching to collect something. A piece of fabric, Vixith noted. Probably from the cub's bedding material. She folded it with deliberate precision, the kind of methodical arrangement that suggested humans processed visual chaos through organizational rituals. Her actions remained utterly mundane. Utterly normal. Utterly divorced from the three predator cubs now performing what could only be described as a zero-gravity ballet above her head. Whisper drifted lower. The small cub extended one delicate paw, reaching toward Donna's dark hair. Curiosity. Pure, uncomplicated curiosity about this unusual, bipedal creature that had introduced impossibility into their comfortable existence. "Don't let the cubs make contact with a human," Vixith transmitted. But even as he issued the order, he recognized its futility. The cubs had made a decision. Predator cubs, particularly young predators, didn't receive instructions from command structures. They received instincts. And their instincts were currently suggesting that floating in defiance of physical law while investigating the strange, upright creature was an excellent life choice. Donna finally looked up. Her eyes, those peculiar binocular arrangements that most biological species found uncomfortable to witness, focused on the hovering cubs. She smiled. The expression, on a human face, with those exposed teeth, could be interpreted as hostile by those unfamiliar with the species. But Vixith had studied the exchange program documentation. That was human positive reinforcement. That was human recognition of something she found appealing. "Oh, hey there," Donna said, and her voice contained no urgency whatsoever. "You guys floating or something?" It was perhaps the most casual observation about a complete violation of quantum physics that Vixith had ever witnessed. "Sir, should I initiate emergency protocols?" Jikrin's frequency had climbed to frequencies that bordered on dog whistle range. "Negative," Vixith decided. "Continue monitoring. Maintain all current settings. Do not adjust anything until we understand what's occurring." The three cubs, who moments ago had been safely contained within the bounds of a gravitational field that functioned perfectly, "Thank you very much," continued their defiant float. Burst had maneuvered to position himself above the human, engaging in what appeared to be prey-stalking behavior from a vertical angle. Tumble was still rotating, still practicing. Whisper had almost made contact with Donna's hair. "This is unusual," Donna observed to nobody in particular. Then she returned to her recycling work, as though floating cubs represented nothing more than a minor scheduling change. She hummed her Earth melody. She moved through the nursery bay with the efficiency of routine. She completely ignored the fact that the entire room had just developed a fundamental disagreement with the laws of physics. The cubs continued to float. The station systems continued to insist everything functioned normally. The human continued to hum. And Commander Vixith realized, with creeping certainty, that this was only the beginning. Donna set down her recycling cart and really looked at the floating cubs. "Oh," she said, the way someone might observe a moderately inconvenient rain forecast. "That's not great." It was perhaps the least panicked response to a complete gravitational system failure in recorded station history. "She's noticed," Jikrin reported with the tone of someone watching a crisis develop in slow motion. "The human has confirmed visual identification of the anomaly." "What's she doing?" Vixith demanded. "She's thinking, I believe." Her facial expression suggests cognitive processing of the situation. She has not initiated emergency protocols or expressed alarm. She is simply observing the cubs with the intensity of someone solving a moderately complex puzzle. Burst had reached approximately 2.3 meters altitude now, his small body creating lazy circles through the air. Tumble continued his rotation, apparently having decided that zero-gravity somersaults represented the best use of physical existence. Whisper had managed to actually touch Donna's hair. She gripped a strand with deliberate focus, examining the texture with the investigative precision of a researcher encountering new material. Donna reached out and gently touched Whisper's floating form. The cub didn't resist. Instead, she drifted slightly closer, her hunting instincts apparently deciding that this creature was neither threat nor prey, simply interesting. "Begin emergency gravity restoration sequence," Vixith commanded. "Full backup systems activation." The station hummed. Throughout the structure, from The primary generators to the secondary stabilizers, every backup system initiated simultaneously. Vixith felt it through the floor panels, that distinctive vibration indicating massive power allocation to gravitational infrastructure. The Cubs sank precisely 2 centimeters, then shot upward with increased velocity. System overload cascade. Jikren's voice had entered that frequency range normally reserved for existential recognition of failure. Primary generators are fighting the magnetic compensators. The fields are locking in opposing directions. We're creating a gravitational paradox. Burst yelped, a sound that indicated both alarm and something that sounded suspiciously like laughter, as his ascent accelerated. He'd passed 3 meters now. His small body spun wildly, control completely absent. Tumble's rotation had converted to chaotic tumbling. Even Whisper released Donna's hair, her eyes widening with the particular confusion of a young predator discovering that physics had voted to evolve into pure chaos. "Shut it down!" Vixith shouted. "Deactivate all backup systems immediately!" The station's hum cut off abruptly. Power supplies disengaged. The opposing magnetic fields collapsed. The Cubs stopped moving. They simply hung there, suspended in perfectly motionless equilibrium. Burst at 3.1 meters. Tumble in a frozen mid-somersault. Whisper drifting with the grace of something that had finally achieved absolute peace with its position in space-time. "They're in stasis," Jikren whispered. The conflicting gravitational fields achieved perfect balance. They're neither rising nor falling. They're simply existing in perfect neutral suspension. Donna walked directly beneath the Cubs and looked up. She tilted her head. That same gesture humans apparently used when processing information from unusual angles. Her eyes tracked each Cub's position with clinical precision. "Okay, so the magnetic locks are fighting each other," she said conversationally. "That's your problem right there." "What?" Vixith transmitted directly to his comm. "Jikren, did the human just diagnose the issue?" "She appears to have identified the core mechanical conflict," the engineer confirmed, bewilderment evident in his frequency modulation. "I was still processing the secondary cascade implications. She saw the core problem." Donna gestured upward with a casual wave. "You've got systems trying to push and pull simultaneously. The Cubs are caught in the middle. You need to pick a direction and commit to it. Right now you're asking gravity to do 2 contradictory things at once. That's like asking someone to walk forward and backward simultaneously while standing still. Doesn't work." "The human is suggesting we select a unified approach," Jikren translated, apparently struggling to convert human common sense into technical language. "Disengage the secondary systems," Vixith commanded. "Restore primary gravity generators only. Gentle activation. Incremental power restoration." The station hummed again. Quieter this time, more controlled. The gravitational field rebuilt itself methodically, gradually. Burst descended smoothly, his yelping converting to purring as his feet made contact with the play structure platform. Tumble's frozen somersault resolved into a graceful landing, his small body perfectly balanced as gravity reasserted dominion. Whisper dropped the final meter with the precision of something that had just remembered how falling was supposed to work. All 3 Cubs stood on solid ground. All 3 appeared completely fine. All 3 were already attempting to float again, their bodies straining against gravity as though challenging it to combat. "They're trying to re-achieve weightlessness," Jikren reported. "The Cubs appear to have discovered a new preferred state of existence. Are the gravity systems now stable?" Vixith demanded. "Affirmative. All readings nominal. Gravity generators functioning within standard parameters. Magnetic locks aligned. The situation is resolved." Donna nodded to herself, satisfied with her assessment. She retrieved her recycling cart and resumed her collection work. She deposited 3 pieces of Cub bedding into the container, materials the Cubs had scattered across the floor, presumably during their impossible aerial adventure. She did not appear surprised. She did not appear confused. She appeared like someone who had simply encountered a moderately interesting problem and solved it through basic logical assessment. "Sir," I'm receiving an incoming communication from Coalition Headquarters, Jikren reported. Priority level maximum. They're requesting immediate status update regarding they're using the term gravitational anomaly event. How did they know? Vixith breathed. We initiated automated sensor reports the moment the Cubs began floating, sir. Every station in the network received notification. The Coalition has been tracking this situation in real time. The Cubs had resumed their attempts at weightlessness, their small bodies pushing against gravity with renewed determination. They didn't achieve flight, but they achieved impressive elevation, nearly half a meter of airtime before gravity reasserted control. Burst landed hard, yelped with joy, and immediately began preparing for another attempt. Tell Coalition Headquarters that the situation is stable, Vixith commanded. Gravitational systems functioning normally, no casualties, no ongoing emergency. They're inquiring about the cause of the anomaly, sir. Vixith looked at Donna. She was humming again. That same Earth melody, while collecting more recycling debris. She seemed completely unaware that she'd just violated fundamental physics, and then casually explained the violation to a senior engineer while cleaning. Tell them we're still investigating, Vixith decided. But I suspect the answer is going to be significantly stranger than anyone anticipated. Dr. Nixala arrived in the nursery bay with the professional confidence of someone who had spent 40 years studying gravitational physics across 14 different species. She carried 3 diagnostic instruments, 2 theoretical models, and the absolute certainty that whatever was occurring could be explained through standard mathematical principles. She stopped walking the moment she entered the bay. Donna was moving the Cub's play structure, not adjusting it, not repairing it. Simply moving it, physically repositioning the large metal framework by approximately 1.3 meters to the left. The Cubs followed the structure, maintaining their positions relative to it as though the entire apparatus represented a mobile reference point, rather than a fixed environmental constant. Stop, Dr. Nixala commanded. Her voice carried the weight of academic authority, the kind of tone that had silenced debate across multiple research facilities. What are you doing? Donna glanced over her shoulder. Redistributing the spatial geometry. Your Cubs keep floating because they're trying to occupy the same relative position to this structure. If I move their reference point, they settle. Dr. Nixala felt something crack inside her mind. Some fundamental certainty about how universe operated just fractured like ice under impact. You're treating the gravitational anomaly as a geometric problem, the physicist whispered. Well, yeah, Donna said, and she moved the structure another half meter. The Cubs drifted downward, their bodies finding equilibrium as their reference frame adjusted. The gravity field isn't broken. The kids are just trying to maintain their position in space relative to an object. Move the object, they adjust. Pretty basic stuff. Jikren's voice crackled through the comm. Doctor, I'm reading the most unusual data. The gravitational readings remain unchanged. All systems read normal, but the Cubs have stopped their upward drift. They're now positioned at standard floor level, moving with the repositioned structure as though nothing unusual has occurred. Dr. Nixala's instruments trembled in her claws. You're not fixing the technology. You're solving a behavioral equation. Behavioral, Donna gestured at the Cubs, who were now playing on the repositioned structure exactly as though they'd never experienced weightlessness at all. They're just trying to maintain their territory. Predator Cubs establish spatial relationships to environmental constants. When those constants moved, they should have moved too, but they were maintaining their original position, so they floated. Move the constant, they follow. Problem solved. But that would mean... Dr. Nixala couldn't complete the sentence. Couldn't articulate the impossible implication. That would mean the gravitational field itself isn't malfunctioning. It's operating correctly around someone who exists on a different baseline. Donna shrugged and moved toward the bay exit. I'm going to check the commons area. Your recycling schedule got disrupted. Probably need to do a full collection cycle. The moment Donna stepped through the doorway, the nursery bay's power supply fluctuated. Lights dimmed, then brightened. then shifted to an entirely different color spectrum for approximately 3 seconds before reverting to normal. The water circulation system in the cub's drinking fountain began flowing backward, an impossible occurrence given the unidirectional valve structure, then abruptly reversed course and flowed forward again. "Jikren, are you seeing this?" Dr. Nixala demanded. "Affirmative. System instability correlates directly with the human's movement through station corridors. She passed the power junction at marker 7. Main grid spiked to 143% capacity, then crashed to 23%, then stabilized at precisely 97%. Dr. Nixala followed Donna into the corridor. The human was walking with casual efficiency, completely unaware that she was creating gravitational and electrical chaos in her wake. Behind her, systems flickered between states. Ahead of her, systems anticipated her arrival and preemptively shifted parameters. "You're not aware of this, are you?" Dr. Nixala asked. Donna paused at an intersection. "Aware of what?" "That you're causing fundamental system failures across the station." "I'm causing system failures?" Donna looked genuinely confused. "I'm just doing my job. I collected the nursery recycling, and now I'm moving to Section 3 for the common areas." They walked together. Behind them, the nursery bay system stabilized into unprecedented efficiency. Power consumption dropped 8%. Gravity generators purred with mechanical satisfaction. The water fountain's backward flow issue resolved itself permanently into forward flow operation. Around Donna, the station seemed to breathe in response to her presence, fluctuate, adjust, recalibrate, find new equilibrium. "Your job doesn't involve physical repositioning of gravitational-affected objects," Dr. Nixala observed. "No, but it involves understanding spatial relationships," Donna explained, reaching the commons area. She began collecting recycling materials with methodical precision. When you work in botanical maintenance, you learn that everything relates to everything else. Plants don't fail because they're broken. They fail because their position relative to their environment has become unbalanced. Light, water, soil structure. It's all about geometric harmony. In the commons, the environmental control systems began a symphony of impossibility. Climate regulators cycled through 12 different temperature settings simultaneously, then settled on a temperature that had never been recorded before, but somehow felt optimal for every life form on the station. The illumination converted to wavelengths that technically shouldn't exist in visible spectrum, yet somehow everyone found them perfectly comfortable. The air circulation system began flowing in patterns that defied fluid dynamics but created unprecedented efficiency. "You're treating the station like a botanical system," Dr. Nixala said, understanding finally crystallizing. "It's alive, isn't it?" Donna looked at the physicist like it was obvious. "Everything complex is alive in some way. Your station has systems that interact. They're trying to maintain relationships to each other. But something's off in the geometric configuration. I move things around until the relationships feel balanced. Then the systems stop fighting." Jikren's voice arrived through the comm, trembling with barely contained realization. "Doctor, I'm reading something impossible. The power grid is operating at 2.7% greater efficiency than theoretical maximum. Environmental systems are functioning optimally across 47 different parameters simultaneously. Gravitational stabilization is holding at unprecedented precision. The station isn't just functioning normally. It's functioning better than it has in recorded history." Dr. Nixala looked at Donna. Donna continued collecting recycling, old food containers, discarded materials, organic waste, completely unaware that she just violated every established principle of physics by treating the universe like a garden requiring basic organizational adjustment. "This isn't a technology problem," Dr. Nixala whispered. "This is your neurology." "My neurology?" Donna seemed amused. "My neurology is pretty standard. I have a brain. It processes spatial relationships. I move things until they're balanced. That's not unusual. That's just how brains work." But Dr. Nixala understood now. Humans didn't interact with physics through engineering principles. They interacted through intuitive understanding of relationship, balance, and harmony. They didn't solve problems through technical specifications. They solved through observation and geometric adjustment. The cosmic implications were only beginning. Dr. Nix Allah received the biological data 17 minutes after Donna left the commons area. The cubs were thriving, not simply surviving weightlessness, thriving. Their neurological activity had increased by 34%. Muscle development protocols that normally required 6 months were compressing into accelerated growth cycles. Their predatory instinct markers, the neural indicators that measured hunting capability, were registering at levels typically seen in fully mature hunters. They're not experiencing distress, the medical specialist reported through coalition comm channels. The cubs are in optimal psychological state. Weightlessness appears to be triggering developmental acceleration in predator physiology. Commander Vixth stared at the biological readouts. You're saying zero gravity is beneficial for them? We're saying weightlessness appears to be accelerating a natural developmental phase these cubs should experience but haven't had environmental conditions to trigger, the specialist confirmed. Their species evolved in lower gravity regions. Full gravity suppresses these developmental pathways. Reduced gravity activates them. Dr. Nix Allah felt understanding crystallize completely. The human didn't cause a malfunction. She triggered a biological necessity. Vixth's claws clicked against his console. Explain. The cubs need weightlessness for proper predator development. Your station's gravity system prevented that development. When the human entered the nursery bay, her neurological interaction created a localized zero-gravity environment. The cubs responded to it. They're not floating because something's wrong. They're floating because something's finally right. The connection to coalition headquarters crackled with incoming transmission priority ratings. Military channels, scientific channels, high-level administration. Every department suddenly recognizing that a maintenance worker had achieved what veterinary specialists had been failing to accomplish for generations. Donna was in the botanical gardens when Vixth found her. She was replanting seedlings, biological material from 14 different species, each one positioned in specific geometric patterns that somehow maximized growth potential, despite the station's limited environmental variables. Her hands moved with intuitive precision, placing each organism exactly where it belonged according to some internal logic that existed beyond technical specification. Your cubs are developing accelerated predatory capability, Vixth announced. The zero-gravity environment you created is triggering natural evolutionary pathways that had been dormant. Donna glanced up. They're flying? Yes. Cool, Donna said, returning to her seedlings. My neighbor's cat does this when it gets excited. Floats around the apartment. Pretty normal behavior, actually. Cats need zero-gravity environments periodically. Helps their hunting instincts develop properly. Your cubs are just doing the same thing. Their species probably evolved in low-gravity regions, so weightlessness triggers something essential. You just described our cubs' entire biological developmental necessity as though it were a casual household observation, Dr. Nix Allah said quietly. Isn't that what it is? Donna repositioned another seedling. Everything responds to its natural environment. Remove the natural environment and organisms struggle. Restore it and they thrive. That's not complicated. That's just biology. The Coalition Medical Authority submitted their formal report within hours. The cubs had entered accelerated development. Within weeks, they would achieve full predatory capability equivalent to mature hunters. This was not malfunction. This was enhancement. We need to establish permanent protocols, Vixth transmitted to Coalition headquarters. The human's neurological interaction appears to recalibrate physical systems toward optimal biological function. You're asking us to officially accept that human consciousness affects fundamental physics, Coalition Command responded. I'm telling you that human consciousness appears to correct what we've been getting wrong, Vixth corrected. Our technological systems operate on different baseline assumptions than biological necessity. Humans seem to understand biological necessity intuitively. When they adjust their environment, they adjust toward what living systems require. Coalition Science Division requested Donna's immediate participation in comprehensive studies. Coalition military inquired whether humans could be weaponized for gravitational manipulation. Coalition administration demanded formal protocols for human neurological integration into station systems. Donna was planting the last seedling when she received the transmission. "They're asking me to stay in the nursery bay permanently," she reported to Vixith. "Apparently my presence is beneficial for the cub's development. They want to establish me as permanent environmental liaison for predator youth facilities." "Will you do it?" Vixith asked. Donna considered this while brushing soil from her hands. "I'll need to know I can maintain my normal recycling schedule. That's my job. I'm not going to stop doing my job just because nobody understood what I was actually doing." "What do you mean?" Dr. Nixala demanded. "I mean that recycling isn't trash collection," Donna explained. "It's system circulation. When you remove waste from one location and reintroduce processed materials elsewhere, you're maintaining the equilibrium of the entire environment. That's what keeps stations functioning. That's what keeps organic systems healthy. I move materials around until everything's balanced. The gravity thing was the same principle applied to spatial positioning." The three cubs appeared on the visual feed from the nursery bay. They were floating, deliberately, joyfully, with the confidence of organisms discovering something their biology had always required. Burst was practicing aerial hunting sequences. Tumble was developing coordination in three-dimensional space. Whisper was investigating how weightlessness affected predatory movement patterns. "The cubs are developing behavioral complexity we haven't seen in their species before," the medical specialist reported. "Their cognitive pathways are expanding. They're learning three-dimensional coordination that typically requires years of additional training. They're achieving this in days." Vixith initiated the formal protocol amendment. The station's gravity systems would remain partially destabilized in the nursery bay, not as malfunction, but as intentional recalibration. Donna would remain in permanent environmental liaison position. Her normal recycling duties would continue throughout the station. Her presence would be systematically noted in all biological development programs. "This is unprecedented," Coalition Command transmitted. "We're accepting that a single human, present coincidentally, has restructured our understanding of optimal biological environments." Donna moved into the nursery bay that evening. She brought her recycling cart. She continued her humming. The cubs continued their weightless development. The gravity systems settled into their new configuration, not broken, but recalibrated. The station's power grid stabilized at unprecedented efficiency. Everything operated at levels previously considered theoretically impossible. "The human changed nothing," Dr. Nixala observed to Vixith. "She simply revealed what had been wrong with our entire approach." Vixith watched Donna begin her evening gardening maintenance, establishing vegetative growth patterns throughout the nursery bay while the cubs floated overhead. "She didn't change anything, she just organized it correctly." The cubs purred. The station hummed. The system held. Donna set down her gardening tools at precisely 13 hours station time. "I'm taking my lunch break," she announced to nobody in particular. The cubs continued their weightless training exercises overhead. Burst was now executing complex aerial maneuvers with predatory precision. Tumble had developed coordination sufficient for genuine hunting practice. Whisper was teaching herself three-dimensional movement patterns that would normally require years of ground-based training to develop. "The human is departing the nursery," Jikrin reported through Coalition communication channels. "System stability remains at optimal levels. Gravitational recalibration holding at intended parameters." Dr. Nixala watched Donna leave. The human moved with complete obliviousness to the cosmic restructuring occurring in her wake. She didn't acknowledge the floating cubs. She didn't discuss their remarkable development. She simply departed to obtain nutrition, as though she hadn't just revolutionized an entire species' developmental protocols. In the Coalition's Central Command Chamber, 14 different department heads were simultaneously processing the implications. "We're accepting that humans operate on a fundamentally different neurological baseline," Science Command stated. "They perceive environmental relationships through intuitive spatial awareness rather than technical specification. This allows them to recalibrate complex systems toward biological optimization." The military applications are extraordinary. Defense Minister Vixnar transmitted. If humans can recalibrate gravitational fields through mere presence, imagine what they could accomplish with intentional focus. We're not discussing weaponization, Vix interrupted. We're discussing integration. The human didn't weaponize the cubs. She enabled their natural development. That's the distinction we need to maintain. But the cubs are now capable of combat effectiveness unprecedented in their species' history, Defense Minister continued. They've compressed 18 months of predatory development into 3 weeks. That's military advantage. That's biological restoration, Dr. Nixala corrected. The cubs needed weightlessness for proper development. Our gravity systems prevented that. The human provided what was biologically necessary. That's not advantage. That's correction. The Coalition Medical Authority submitted updated protocols. Predator cubs would require periodic zero-gravity environments. This was no longer optional enrichment. This was essential biological necessity. Every research facility, every military installation, every colony station would need to accommodate gravitational recalibration zones for proper species development. We need human environmental liaisons at every major facility, Coalition administration proposed, not for military purpose, for biological optimization. In the station's commons area, Donna unwrapped her lunch. She'd prepared a sandwich, assembled from the station's hydroponic gardens combined with nutritional paste that approximated something resembling bread. She ate with the contemplative focus of someone who had successfully completed a work project and was now refueling for the next task. She had no idea that her lunch break coincided with the most significant paradigm shift in Coalition history. Vixith observed her from nearby, unable to resist the moment. "Do you understand what you've accomplished?" Donna glanced up. Crumbs of something resembling grain adhered to her mouth. "I organized a space so the inhabitants could thrive. That's my job. You restructured gravitational physics through neurological recalibration." "No," Donna said firmly. "I positioned the cubs' living environment so they could access the gravitational conditions they needed. I moved things around. That's not restructuring, that's just basic organization." But it was restructuring. It was paradigm revision. It was proof that human consciousness interacted with physical reality through mechanisms that violated every theoretical model the Coalition had developed. By 14 years, the cubs had achieved unprecedented physical capability, burst-executed combat sequences that demonstrated predatory excellence equivalent to adult hunters. Tumble developed coordination that would facilitate hunting in 3-dimensional space with efficiency previously impossible. Whisper understood spatial relationships with intuitive precision that typically required years of experience to acquire. "The cubs are essentially mature," the biological specialist reported. "They've compressed developmental cycles through gravitational recalibration. They're capable hunters now, fully developed predators. This is impossible." "It's not impossible," Dr. Nixala corrected. "It was always possible. We just didn't understand the conditions required for it to manifest." Donna returned to the nursery bay at 14:30. She retrieved her recycling cart, still containing materials from the morning collection cycle, and resumed her systematic organization of station waste. She moved through the space with rhythmic efficiency. The cubs watched her work with the intensity of young predators observing a creature they decided was interesting without being threatening. "Do you notice the cubs respond to your organizational patterns?" Vixith asked. Donna paused in her collection work. "Notice what? That your presence triggers their development? That your actions accelerate their growth?" "No," Donna said, genuinely confused. "I'm just doing my job. I'm collecting their waste materials, organizing them for processing, maintaining the spatial equilibrium of their environment. They're doing their job, being cubs, practicing hunting, learning. We're just both occupying the same space." But she wasn't just occupying the same space. Her presence was enabling biological states previously considered theoretical. Her intuitive spatial awareness was recalibrating systems toward their optimal function. Her mundane work was revolutionary. By evening, Coalition headquarters had established new protocols. Human environmental liaisons would be integrated into every facility. Their role would be officially recognized as neurological optimization specialists, a title Donna would probably never use and certainly never think she deserved. The cubs continued their weightless training. Burst descended gracefully to collect food, his movements fluid with newfound coordination. Tumble executed aerial roles with practiced confidence. Whisper drifted contentedly, her development accelerated beyond anything her species had previously achieved. Donna finished her collection work and sat down with another sandwich. She hummed her Earth melody while watching the cubs play. The station systems hummed in harmony. The gravity fields maintained their recalibrated balance. The power grids operated at unprecedented efficiency. Everything was working perfectly. Everything was normal, at least from Donna's perspective. The cubs floated overhead, thriving in their impossible weightlessness. The human ate her sandwich below, completely unaware that she'd restructured an entire civilization's understanding of physics through basic organizational intuition. The new paradigm had begun.